Welcome to the Spirit of a Badass, where we celebrate stories of courage, hope, and resiliency. I am your host, Alecia Jacobson. Hello, my badasses. Welcome to today's episode. This is a two-part episode. So if you haven't heard part one, go back to last week and listen to Whitney share about her career and how she has now kind of transitioned into being a stay-at-home mom and an entrepreneur, and how she intentionally manages her time and her family and what she brings her business. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that I was like, girl, I need to hear more from you. Not only do I need to hear more from you, but you have said so many golden nugget things that I need to talk to you further. So after we finished recording, I asked her if she would be willing to come on again and share kind of part one to her story, because it is so beautiful. And I'm really excited for you to hear that today. Whitney shares about her childhood and growing up and how she had kind of a more non-traditional childhood and looked to her friends' families as sort of anchors to how she wanted to create her family, and how she really designed the life that she wanted to create through being very intentional, how she did that. And she shares all of that. I'm really excited that she came back and is sharing the beginning of her story today. Whitney Malish is a New Orleans, Louisiana native who graduated from Louisiana State University in Industrial and Systems Engineering and the University of Notre Dame with a master's in Engineering, Science, and Technology Entrepreneurship. She made her way to the Midwest after completing her thesis on cycling technologies and accepting a position to further develop this work with a company in Chicago. After marrying her Notre Dame sweetheart, she moved to Madison, Wisconsin, and worked as a digital product manager for Abercrombie & Fitch's website and affiliate platforms for over 3 years. In December 2024, she welcomed her rainbow baby into the world and decided to step away from the hustle of corporate life to stay home with her son and build her business, The Malish Home, where she helps others create beauty at home through elevated interiors, everyday luxuries, and soulful recipes. Welcome back, Whitney.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, this is my very first two-part.
Oh.
Yeah. So thank you. When I had reached out to you, something about your energy, I just knew that there was a lot of depth to you. And I think I just said, like, I feel that you have a story. There's like a lot in there. So once we got going in the original episode that we recorded and we got there, and I was like, could I please have you back and share? So here we are. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah. So where would make the most sense to start with you?
Yeah, I guess probably from like the very beginning.
Okay.
It's funny. It's an ongoing joke with my friends, and like even when I used to date, now I'm married, like people would always be like, Whitney's a jack in a box. Like she's lived like 50 lives. You never know what story is going to come out of her. And I think that's so true. So I think just like starting from the beginning would probably be best.
All right. Go ahead. I'm going to let you just take it away.
Yeah, so like we went over it in the last episode. I'm Whitney Malish, and I was born and raised right outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. As a kid, my mom was a teen mom, and she was one of 8. So she was a teen mom. So I was essentially raised with all of my aunts and uncles because she was a teenager herself, still living at home when I was born. And, coming from a family of 8 where everyone has different parents and all of that amongst the 8, there's just a lot of generational trauma that I got to see firsthand. Something I talk about with people that I mentor that know my story a lot. I talk to them about how like I learned what not to do. And I saw that around me. And I just, growing up, I always thought like, oh, I want more than what I'm seeing. I want, to come home, feel safe, have a meal, all the like simple things that I feel like sometimes we get lost in this world and forget to go back to the basics. And when we talked about my brand last time we chatted, I hope like while I talk through this, it makes a lot more sense why I'm like, we just need to enjoy the simplicity of life and how beautiful that is. But I guess backing up, yeah, born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, had a teen mom. My dad was not in the picture. My mom wasn't in the picture. Grew up in a very broken household. My grandparents did their best to raise me, but they were raising their kids at the same time. So born in that dysfunction, and my mom had her own demons to work through, with substances, men, having more children, her own loss. She tried her best. She was a teenager in herself, And then I saw that, with my aunts and uncles as well growing up. When you go through such a traumatic upbringing, some people become a product of that in terms of, they repeat it. And then some people want to do the complete opposite. And like when people meet me, they're like, oh, you're so like orderly and stuff like that. But that's because I lived in so much chaos, and I just wanted like everything to have a place. Growing up in that was really eye-opening about, I don't have to live this way. I want something more for myself. And I knew that at a really young age because I always surrounded myself with really great people. Like I have been so blessed to have the community that I have had throughout every stage of life, because even when it was difficult, my upbringing, I had the best friends. They're still my best friends to this day. My husband's like, the way that you stay in touch with people is crazy. And I'm like, yeah, that's my family. Those are my people. But I got to see, their families have dinner, and they would invite me, and I would see like how much their parents loved each other and how they would talk about their careers, and they would take care of their bodies and themselves and each other. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want. Like, I want this. And I would kind of reverse engineer, even as a small kid, being like literally grilling their parents at the dinner table. So what do you do for a living? Like, how do you afford this? Like, I would ask stuff like that and be like, oh, like I would take note. Oh, they're all praying together. Oh, they do this together. Oh, like I would take note of all that. And I just knew from a young age, like I want more, and I'll do whatever it takes to do that.
That's incredible that even how old, when you talk about a young age, when you're reverse engineering this, how old were you then?
Oh gosh, like I would say like probably like my earliest memory, my best friend Caitlin, who still comes and visits, she lives in DC now. Like we're like completely on other sides of the United States. But I remember like having dinner with her and her family when I was like 4. And I was just like, wow, like her family is so loving and beautiful. And like I want that. And I just remember that from a young age. Or like even like seeing like people at school as a kid, like you're aware, of other kids, and you see their parents pick them up from school. And like I was always, if someone was picking me up, I was always like the last one in car line, like waiting, and sometimes have to get sent to after school care because they may have forgot. And I would just like observe always just like these families and how they would talk to each other. And I mean, no family's perfect, but you can kind of dissect like what you want for yourself when observing that, like in elementary school.
Mm-hmm. That's really, I mean, that's a lot of depth right there for an element. I mean, I have 2 elementary school children, and while they pick up, I have my youngest ask questions probably similar to what do you do? How do you afford? Like all those ones. Hers is probably for different reasons, but she's a very curious kid in that manner. I can see probably more than 2 spaces to this, but you're witnessing these families and things. How did you take that and, kind of, this is what I know what I don't want. How do I get what I do want? Because that is, I mean, it feels like it's very much baked in you, but how did you kind of cultivate that as a young child?
Yeah, I would say growing up, I was always extremely focused that I wanted a more peaceful life. Like my life was always very chaotic. So my North Star was always just like a peaceful life. And my husband, I joke, I'm like, people can say a lot of things about me. They can't say I'm not hardworking. And like, I started working when I was like 14, like in an actual place to go to work. But before that, I was like busting tables under the table. I had like a scrunchy line. I started saving at a young age, knowing that one day, I didn't really think about the concept of college, honestly, until my junior year of high school. We can talk about that. But like, I just knew I didn't want to struggle financially, and I just wanted to get out. And let me just say, I think my family did the best they could, because this is generational. We all have to work through our stuff, but at some point you have to stop saying it's generational and do the work and break out of it.
Yeah. In that it's again, and I say this in the other episode too, I am so excited for the women who are of your age demographic right now, because I feel like the possibility of what you have done and what you can achieve is like one of the most beautiful things. It just makes my heart swell. Like it's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. And like, I think, well, and let me back up. Like, while my grandparents raised me, at one point, I went to my godmother's house and lived with her for a bit. And there was a lot of that was like what I thought was supposed to be like me being kind of like saved, even though my grandparents did the best they can. They were just older, you know, they had 8 kids they had to raise, and then me, and then they're getting older. And some of their children were struggling with their own demons and they're still underneath the house. And that's not healthy when you're, you know, raising a very young child. I then went to another home with my godmother, and that was extremely traumatic, where that was supposed to be, you know, kind of like some sense of normalcy. I mean, that's how it was marketed to me. Like, hey, go over here. You like, it will be normal for you. And like, that like really messed me up because like mentally for a bit with my confidence. Cause I was like, whoa, I saw my grandmother as like a mother figure. My own mother wasn't really there. And then to be like, hey, no, your godmother's really going to be there for you. And then even, you know, go through that again, that was really hard. But again, I go back to community because my friends' parents were normal and observing this and being like, no, 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 Whitney's staying with us. No. And they would just rotate me. Like I'd be like, okay, Whitney's at our house this day. You got her next weekend. Like, and that's what I mean by I am so blessed, because even though I was going through this trauma as a child, I had these people around me as anchor points of telling myself, okay, keep going, keep going. Cause like that does a lot to you mentally as a kid. You know, you can go to dark places and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, and I had times like that, but then I just saw the sense of normalcy and the anchor points that I had of people that cared enough to invite me to their dinner table that I was like, okay, I can get out and just got to get through high school. That's what I kept telling myself. Like, got to get through elementary, got to get through middle school, got to get through junior high. And then it just kept going.
Yeah. That's, I mean, another anchor point is that this got to get through it, got to get through it. How do you handle that? Because that is a mindset of like, I just have to get through it. How has that sort of impacted you now?
Yeah, I love the slowdown now. I remember when I would say I had that whole gotta get through it mentality until I graduated getting my master's degree at Notre Dame.
Damn.
I remember my first job in Chicago, didn't know anyone there. Literally took a job, didn't know anyone. And I was sitting and I had a wonderful mentor that I worked with. And she told me, she's like, Whitney, you're a damn good worker. But as someone who cares about you, you dissociate and just like keep going. I remember her holding my hand in an office. Sorry, I might cry, like thinking I haven't really talked about this in a while, but she's holding my hand. She's like, you don't have to be in survival mode anymore. And I remember having that talk with me, and then she like encouraged me to do therapy. I never had therapy up until this ever.
And how old were you then when you were in Chicago?
Gosh, I was 24, 23.
Okay.
Yeah, I never went to therapy. I was dating my now husband at the time. I remember him being like, hey, like, have you considered therapy and like stuff like that? And I'd be like, why? And he's like, no, like, I just think you're so hard on yourself. You're so negative towards yourself. And I just see the way you treat yourself. And I just think you should like go talk to someone, like process all of this. And I remember him saying that to me. And then my mentor said it to me. And it was two people I really, really trusted. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'll do the work. And I remember my mentor even was like, if you can't afford it, because I lived in Chicago and it was my first job out of grad school, she's like, I'll like help pay for it. She's like, I'm worried about you as a person. Like, you're a really great worker. You're really good at masking. But like, I just know this isn't sustainable for you long term. You're gonna burn out. Like, you're gonna burn out because like you don't need to live in such a survival state anymore. So yeah, that was when I was like 23, 24. And that's crazy to think about because I'm 30 now. And I feel like I'm just starting to like live, if that makes sense.
100%. I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I was like, I think of that often. And that's why I'm like, love the slowdown and the simplicity now. Like, I joke, I'm like, I love looking at clouds and trees and stuff like that. Cause like, I didn't observe any of that growing up ever. Like, that's really crazy to think about, but I'm like, I didn't.
Yeah. How did you get because your accomplishments, you said you can either become a product of it. Your accomplishments are grand. What you have created now is such beauty. And how did you do, other than getting through it, what did it look like sort of that middle school, high school period? Because that's when you have to start planning to create what you did.
Yeah. I'm going to keep saying community, but I really feel like I'm a Christian. So I really do believe God was always looking out for me. And my faith, and I get asked this a lot, like, how did your faith not waver? Like when you were in such, like all of this. And I'm like, I just felt like I was always provided for. Like, even though it was really tough, I just always felt like someone was looking out for me. And like, even in elementary school, teachers knew what was going on. Like, they could tell, like, things weren't normal compared to your traditional family. And then, same with like middle school, where I remember them. I was always someone that made like good grades. Like, I always preoccupied myself with work in the midst of all of this. So I know like everyone turns to something, and I'll be honest, my addiction was work. And I worked through enough of that to be like, my addiction was work. I would distract myself by, becoming the best student I can be, taking on more jobs. Like in high school, I worked 3 jobs in high school, like saving for college. I would just distract myself with work. But that said, like in middle school, my teachers would be like, hey, we're putting you in this honors program. Do you need tutoring on the side? You don't have to pay. They just looked out for me. I'd go to counselor's office and stuff, and they would be like, hey, like, what's going on? I'd be like, everything's fine. Like, I'm like, everything's fine. Cause like, I don't know, there's like, I don't want to discount that there's some homes that have to deal with a lot of physical abuse. And like, that's not something I dealt with. But I think it made it kind of easier to mask a lot of things and just be like, oh, like, it's fine. And so that said, like, I would just distract myself with work, and I would go to like, I did have hobbies. Like I danced throughout school, and like my dance teachers like would always like, I would hate to say I'm like the favorite, but everyone just kind of took me under their wing and like invited me to their house. And I just remember just like I would stay at my friend's house for like 4 days in a row. It was very normal to do that. And I would just focus and study. And their parents would even laugh and be like, oh, invite Whitney over because our house will be clean after. Because I felt like I even had to like earn their love, where I would like clean their houses when I was there. And they'd be like, no, Whitney, like just go play. Like just go play. And yeah, that's how addicted I was to working, is like I'd go to my friend's house and literally clean their whole room and then like study and stuff.
How have you kind of married that into your life now? Because I mean, if your mentor sits you down and like, hey, girl, we got to get some therapy on this, because I can see, I mean, this is what we kind of talked about, what I was sharing about. I'm so excited for women in your age group, because there's such an awareness of the burnout now and this need to not prove, but you were kind of doing that. You were on the path.
Yeah.
How did you untangle that? Because that's difficult.
Well, I remember the first time I went to therapy, and I sat down, I was like, I don't really know myself. And she was like, well, she's like, what do you mean? And I remember my therapist being a bit shocked by that, because like the first time you and I talked, it's really easy for me to talk about like, oh, like I got several engineering degrees. I went to Notre Dame, and then I graduated like this ranking in my class. And then I made this, and then I went here, here, and here. It's really easy for me to tell that story, but unraveling my childhood has always been kind of hard for me, because I don't really remember a lot of it, to be honest. I remember the things I felt, and I know how I cope because those things come up, but I don't remember all of it. And because of that, it makes me feel like I don't know myself fully, because I also never got to really explore and be a kid and all of that. So I remember sitting down, I was like, I feel like I don't really know myself. Like, I don't know what my favorite food is or my favorite drink. That sounds so silly, but like I was like sitting down with her, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I like things because I felt like I needed to like them for other people to like me and to survive, or if like that's who I really am. And she was a bit shocked. She's like, but like, you're not self-destructive. Like, you don't appear to be self-destructive. Like because the person I was with before my husband, I was with I was with him for like 6 years. And again, we broke up on very good terms. Like I'm someone that can have relationships and like healthy relationships and hold jobs and, perform well. And so I don't appear to be someone that is self-destructive. So I remember her getting, as I was like talking about my childhood, we literally started from the beginning. A constant was always work, and a constant in different forms. It could be, cleaning and organizing every caretaker's home that I've been into. It could be when I actually had jobs, I'd give money towards those households as a kid when I should have been saving, for college and stuff like that. Like it was always work as a constant. And even when I was working in Chicago, I had a corporate job. I was trying to start businesses on the side. I was still trying to teach spin classes on the side. And like, I remember my husband just being like, boyfriend at the time, he was like, you don't need to work 50 jobs to get by anymore. He was like, you can just like enjoy, like enjoy your life a little bit. And I unraveled all of that, and seeing that work was the constant. So from there, I just really was like, okay, how can I slow down? How can I incorporate more rest into my day to day?
I know ladies who have tried to do this, and they sit down and their mind is all like, hey girl, you should be doing like, it's messy up there. How did you, because I know that there's women listening right now that feel that they have to keep themselves busy in order to sort of insert whatever it is. They have to, that rest equals bad, that worth comes from productivity. How, like, what were the tools that you used, if we can go there, to sort of pull apart that thread?
I think rest, you and I talk about seasons a lot. I think rest will look different based on the season that you're in and how far you are and kind of like your self-healing journey. For me, I needed to do a lot of self-help books at first, kind of like get to the point of like, oh, like I remember reading like, what is it? Adult Children to Emotionally Immature Parents. I was like reading self-help books like The Body Keeps Score. Like I was like, and I know that you're like, Whitney, that's not rest. Like that's deep work. But I needed to unravel my brain a little bit. Now, let me be clear. I think there's a point when like too much information is too much information. I don't really read those sort of things anymore because I found myself constantly making myself a self-improvement project. I started to get addicted to that, getting better, getting better, getting better versus it wasn't necessarily work, but I was on this like journey of like so addicted to like becoming like that's kind of toxic.
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah. I that's how I started, was the self-help book, and sort of like I was in therapy all the time.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I need this therapy. I need to try this new thing. And I became addicted to that. So it helped me until a certain point, I will say. So at that point, it was like, okay, I need to go on long walks and get to know myself. And I was reading these like more therapy-based books to try to get to know myself. And that helped to a point. But then at one point, my mentor was very honest with me, the one that I talked about. And she was like, okay, now you're kind of addicted to this like journey. You need to like be quiet with your thoughts. And my mentor, she went through a lot of stuff herself as a kid. So, and she was like 10 years older than me. So she's just phenomenal. Like I adore her. I wonder how she's doing. I haven't talked to her in a while. I should probably check
in.
Like,
here's your like invitation to reach out to her.
I'll send this to her, but she is just phenomenal. She's made such an impact on my life. But I remember her being like, okay, now you're a little addicted because every single time I like call something out that could help you, you're asking, well, what's the book for that? Like, what's the podcast for that? And she's like, no, Whitney, like just sit on your thoughts. Like go for a walk and don't listen to anything. Be quiet with your thoughts. Get comfortable in the silence of your thoughts. And I remember this was around the pandemic time. So like I did therapy for like a year at this point, was addicted to self-help at that point. And then around the pandemic, I think all of us, like everything was like shutting down. That's when I started to go on like, what is it? Like screen free, like little tech detox, like walks where I would just make myself walk without listening to anything and just embrace the silence a bit. And then I got really comfortable talking with other people as well during that time, because that was also around the time my husband and I got engaged. And that was pretty triggering for me, planning a wedding when you don't have family really that you like talk to. because I do come from a huge family, huge. Like when you have 7 aunts and uncles, you can figure that out, you know? It's a lot. And I remember that was pretty hard for me to be like, do I invite them? Do I not? I don't want them to hate me. They probably already hate me. Like I like that kind of stuff. And throughout all of that, I remember my husband just being like, you can talk to me about this stuff that's like really uncomfortable for you. And I remember like there were times I would have, he would be able to start picking up when I was having panic attacks when I didn't even notice it per se. And I remember him just being like, okay, let's talk it out. Cause he's big on like talking through what you're feeling, even if you can't even say it in the way that you want to say it. Like he'd be like, hey, I'm not going to judge how you word it. You don't have to like practice what you're saying to me, because I would do that too. If I like had conflict, I'd be like, okay, I need to say it like this. But I'd say, yeah, just like tech detox walks alone, but also just having that one person, which I would hope all of us can feel comfortable going to our partner and just being and saying all the stuff that feels really icky and admitting that it feels really icky.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like accepting that you have icky thoughts, and that's okay. That's not, you can have icky thoughts and not be an icky person. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I would say those things. And that's really simple, like that I think anyone can implement in their day to day and not spend a ton of money or anything like that.
Yeah. I just was talking to somebody yesterday. I asked her about her walks because she was feeling stressed and kind of doing the stress spiral. And she was saying how she's, watching. And I was like, oh no, like I need you to go outside.
Go touch grass.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
You need to go hug a tree. I need you to hear the trees. I need you to hear the traffic. Like I need you to go. There's so much value in taking those earplugs or AirPods out. I know I'm old. Yeah. It just shows my oldness there. But taking them out and hearing nature, it's so grounding. And you can, like you said, get to know yourself or get to know whatever it is that you're kind of needing to bring space to.
Yeah. I forgot to call out, I think shadow work is a game changer too. Like just journaling as well. If you have a hard time just like walking and being in silence, like I find like the shadow work prompts to be really powerful, at least for me as someone who has a hard time just, thinking about my childhood and stuff like that. It was a great tool for me to look inward as well and be like, okay, what would younger Whitney want? Like let's really tap into that right now. Like what would make me proud right now, to my core, small Whitney. So I really enjoyed doing shadow work. And I think that was a game changer for me, like processing things as well and doing things that truly lit me up versus how I thought society would view me.
It's that a couple different things I want to tap into. I have heard a handful of people say, like, I don't know what my favorite food is. I don't know what it's not something they got to actually experience as children and doing the work around. And I had never heard that probably until the last year. That was something, because, I'm in coaching, I talk to people, but that's not usually something that somebody like in conversation, that's not a sharing topic generally.
Yep.
And I would just offer that if you are hearing this and some of these, kind of conversation is touching, that taking this information and using it to the best of your ability, because I do think that those things, we hear things, I think, when we need to hear them. And I really believe that your story is going to kind of have those light bulb moments with people where they're like, oh, I didn't realize, because I have the opportunity to talk with people. And I'm guessing with the community that you've created, you also have the opportunity to talk with people, but not a lot of people share these sort of intimate pieces of themselves. So one, that's why I do this, and I am grateful for people like you who are willing to kind of show up and show in a vulnerable space. And then I want to touch on the shadow work, because it's something I've had people reach out to me and say, what does this mean? And it seems to be sort of it's kind of a shadowy space. What does it mean to you to do shadow work?
So I need to find the journal. It was like, I didn't know where to start with any of this kind of stuff. Because I will say, well, my husband is like he'll like talk to me. He's not a therapy person or any of that. He had a very secure childhood. Yeah. So I guess he views things a little bit differently. He's like, oh, we just talk. Like, it's fine. But I didn't really know. I just remember, what was it? I was on a girls' trip in Savannah, and we all went and got like, this is like some mumbo jumbo, I want to say, but we all went into like one of those like psychic shops, and like I remember all of us girls were like around and they were like, okay, let's like go talk to this like sidekick or whatever. I was like, I normally don't do stuff like this, but whatever. Like, it's my friend's bachelorette, like whatever. And I'm from New Orleans. Like, this is no shock to me that people want to do this kind of stuff. So I remember doing it and she just like looked at me and I was kind of like a freaky moment in front of all these girls. And she was like, she told me, she's like, I see you having like your dream life, but like you need to like she told me like you need to do some shadow work. And I was like, what is that? And then I remember like scrolling on like social media and like shadow work just kept coming up like again and again. And during that time I was also struggling with family planning. Like I just went through my miscarriage, like all of that. Yeah, it was right after my first miscarriage. And she like told me, she was like, I think like you will have much more success once you like do that work, but you need to do that work. And I was like, okay. And I ordered like a little journal off of Amazon, and a lot of the questions were just like, what brought you the most joy as a kid? Or like, if you could write a letter to your like younger self, what would you do? It was just like really like tapping into talking to your younger self or like seeing things through the lens of your younger self. And I know we're not talking too much about my business right now, but I remember when they were like, what brought you most joy? And I was like, literally thinking about my future home, literally like going to my friends' houses and rearranging their room actually brought me joy. I'm not going to lie. Like I loved doing it. I loved cooking with their parents in the kitchen. I could see it so vividly. And I remember that night I looked at my husband. I was like, I think I want to start a business. Like after I journaled that. And that night I was like dreaming it up and I saw it clear as day, like what I wanted to do. And I was still working my corporate job. And my husband was like, you cannot take on anything else. Like you're grieving. like you do not do any of this right now. And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, okay, yeah, F it. Like, let's do it. like,
oh, yeah.
Because of that, like my business, and that's why I feel like I'm so much happier today is because I stopped thinking, Whitney, you have several engineering degrees. Whitney, you have this from this. You have this background in this. I stopped thinking about that and instead was like, what would actually light me up? And would younger Whitney say, yeah, that's freaking cool. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of us. Like, that's what I started leaning into. And I would say, like, my life just feels so much lighter, so much happier, just knowing that I'm making that little girl happy and like knowing that she would feel safe and heard in my home.
Whew. I'm like trying not to cry over here for you and for me. Okay. That's really, I'm going to have to look that up. I think those are some, like just you speaking that, and I'm guessing it's happening for other people listening. You are evoking emotion and me thinking about those. I know I do. I had a podcast earlier this year about bingo. It was like a bingo card and fun things to do on the bingo card. And I think one of them was like nostalgia. There was something. Anyway, it was Doc Martens that I wanted for my younger self. I still haven't purchased them because I'm like, I don't have an outfit to wear with these Doc Martens.
To wear Doc Martens,
yeah. But my best friend had these like clear Doc Martens and you wore like funky socks with them. And she was a size 9 and I was a size 10. And I would like shove my feet into these shoes so that I could wear them because I loved them so much. And every time I think of them, I'm like, oh, I just want those. Like it.
And you should get them.
I know. And it's still on there. I've filled in a lot of my bingo card, but that one is still on there. But
I think of like 13 going on 30. Like think of your 13-year-old self like coming to hang out with you. Like I want her to have a freaking good time, okay? Yes. Like that's like what I mean, she might think I'm a little lame because like, you know, we got to hit like our protein intake and all of that these days, but I want to like, I think she would have a pretty good time.
Okay. That's fantastic. All right. You've said a couple things and I know when we started, you said that you've lived 5 lives. So I would like to back up if we can rewind in your life because you mentioned your wedding planning and how that kind of brought up some questions of do I invite, do I not? How did you make those decisions around relationships, keeping them together, not keeping them together, having the connections and the boundaries surrounding that?
Yeah. Wow. It was really hard. I'm not going to lie. I think COVID kind of helped me though, since you can only have so many people. And I, like my husband and I were very decided, well, let me back up. My husband and I got engaged and right away I like said to him, I was like, I don't really have parents. So like, are we going to elope? Like, what does this look like, you know? And I remember we went to Florida to spend time with his family, who I've shared with you, I adore very, very much. And his parents were like, no, you're having a wedding. Do you want a wedding? You're having a wedding.
That's like your
we
child self of like, what do you want?
Yeah, they were like, what do you want? Like, okay. And like my husband, he's small circle kind of guy, doesn't like a lot of attention. And they were like, if that's not what y'all want, like, yeah, but like, I don't want y'all to elope just because you don't feel like supported by people that love you. Like, we can all elope together. Like, what do you want to do? I remember them saying that to me, and I was like, okay, like, this is such a nice gift for them to, you know, be like, hey, we're paying for it, because that's not traditional. And his family is very traditional, and we literally broke every traditional thing for like a wedding. So it meant a lot to me that they did that. But I will say it was also kind of triggering for me. And I had to work through this in therapy, because I've never had a mother, like a true, like real, like mother figure beyond like my grandmother, who, again, like I said, she tried her best, and her and I are very close. And then my godmother, who I don't have a relationship with, but it was triggering for me, like, to like go through the wedding planning process. And again, she would like weigh in, and she meant so well weighing in, but I was just like, why are you like weighing in? Like, at the same time, because I'm like, I'm not used to that mother daughter dynamic. Like, that was so new to me. And I wanted that. I just didn't know how to receive it. And I had to work through that, because I remember Laura probably is going to be listening to this, because she's like my number one fan. I love her. But I remember her like, she wrote me like a letter in the mail when we were like wedding play, like a handwritten one. And like, I remember her just like doing stuff like that. And I remember my husband being like, my parents were such like hard asses growing up. So like, I haven't like seen this, but because of that, him telling me that they were such hard asses, and how she knew what I needed in that moment, it kind of opened me up into like what that love could look like. So like, so that was something I had to work through. And then we started getting into the guest list for the wedding. And since it was the pandemic, you can only have like 50 people. And they were my husband, his family, they were so supportive on what I needed. But my husband was also like, I've known you for, I think we were like 2 years at that point. We moved pretty fast. We met at Notre Dame. This was a know situation. Yeah. But he was like, I've never heard you talk about these people. Like, you only really talk about them when you're like trying to open up to me about why you are the way that you are. But like, you don't call them. They didn't even show up to your graduation at Notre Dame. They like miss your birthdays. Why are you putting so much emotional energy into how these people are going to perceive you when they haven't even been there for you? He like said that to me, and I remember I was like, I know, but like, I don't want them to like hate. He's like, why do you care? Like, you're literally about to start your life creating the family that you dreamed of, and you're like going back. I remember talking about that in therapy too. And at first I'll say I invited them because I felt bad, and I invited them as in my bio mom. And my grandparents don't travel. So I would have loved for them to be there, but they don't travel. And it was the height of the pandemic, you know. Yeah. But I remember I invited, and instantly in my gut, I knew I shouldn't have. And it's not because I thought she would make a scene. It's none of that. My bio mom has a family now. She's doing so well. Like, I love that for her. Like, let me be really, and I think sometimes we mix up setting that boundary. And going no context does not mean that you hate someone. It does not mean that you wish them ill. And that's something I had to work through, because I felt so guilty about it when I was like, nope, I'm protecting access to me, my husband. I'm protecting access to my husband, who I care about, and my future children. And when you start thinking about the concept being bigger than you, and how you want your legacy to be, and like the future generation to be, it kind of removes some of that shame, because you're like, nope, I can choose for things to be different. And this is why. And it does not mean that I hate anyone. So all said, I remember I extended the invite, thought about it, and I was like, no. And I remember having to make that phone call, and I felt so bad, because I was like, oh my gosh, Whitney, like, but then I was like, Whitney, it's not a business deal. You're not like, it's not like you promised something to a client pulling back. Like, this is like real personal stuff. And I remember calling her, and I was like, hey, like, this is hard for me too. Unfortunately, like with the pandemic, I can only have 50 people there. And when I think of the people I want on my wedding day, which is supposed to be such a big day, I want it to be full of the people that have gotten me where I am today, because you can only have so many people. And like when I think of the 50 people I want in a room that have been there for me, like I'm sorry, like it does not mean that I hate you. You're just not in there. And she understood. She was like, yeah, like I mean, was she upset? Yes, you're allowed to be upset. I would be upset getting news like that if my son told me that one day. But like just because you're upset doesn't mean you also can't understand where the person's coming from. So I remember us having that talk, and I decided, I'm going to add my best friend's parent like to the invite list, or like I thought of like that as for like who I wanted those 50 people to be. So yeah, that was hard, and it was really triggering working through all of that.
Super brave of you to be able to follow your gut like that, because you went with the should of this is traditionally how things are done. And, then you extended the invite, and then that feeling that you get that we all have gotten where we're like, oh shit, this was not right. And so many people just ride that out, and it creates so much more just friction inside of them. And what happened then after the call? Because this is the part that most people don't get to, is I'm experiencing the friction, and now I'm going to do what I know that I need to do.
Yes. So let me preface, as I've made it really clear in this whole story, I'm telling these stories because I truly think it will help someone going through this. It's not to like paint anyone in a bad light.
Oh no, that's not what this is about at all. We don't do that here.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I'm like, yeah, we don't do that here. I got a phone call from a family member cursing me out, and that was really, really hard for me because, like I said, it's not that I didn't like any of these people. That wasn't what this is about. It was these people haven't been there for me. I was a kid. They were more adults in this situation. My mom had, she was a teen. So like I say, but still, when you think of that dynamic, they were more adults. Even her older siblings, they were adults, and they watched how I went from being a baby to all the way to getting my master's degree. And they weren't there for me. They weren't. And that's something we both have to accept that, but they're people that were. And I'm going to prioritize those people over the ones that weren't. And like that's just like taking all emotion out of it. It's just like logic. Like let's just put it out there. But I remember I got that phone call, and I was cursed out, said I was like being like a snob about like my new life and what I'm marrying into, and like all of that. And, that was really hard for me too, but I blocked it, honestly. I was like, no, this isn't productive. Because I'm not one that's, if someone curses me out, I'm not the person that's going to curse them out back. I'm like very like big on integrity. I'm like, okay, if that's, you have to sleep with that at night, and I'll have to sleep with how I respond. And like, this isn't productive. And words last, I know, because I go to therapy for them. So like, I'm not getting into this. And I just blocked. And I said the family member cursed me out, saying like, I should have like done like a wedding in like Louisiana, so like more family members could have gone. I'm like, no, like I'm starting a new life. I'm intentionally doing things differently because like I'm closing this chapter. I have an appreciation for this chapter. It's how like things have gotten me to a certain point, but I'm closing it. It's done. And now I'm like starting something new with this man that I love. I'm starting the family that I want. And I was very intentional about that, and if they couldn't accept that, I was like, okay, block. You just don't get the access to me. And I've just really set boundaries like that. And I still, for the family that I do somewhat talk to, I've just been really clear. These are conversations we can have, and these are ones that like, nope, it's a boundary. And if you want to have a relationship, you respect that. And if not, then I have energy to pour into my other wonderful relationships that I have in my life. Like, and again, that does not mean that I hate you or any of that. It's just, I don't want that in my life. Just like they may choose not to have something in their life, and they can have that choice because free will, baby. Like that's what I say.
I mean, that takes a lot of work to get to that space and feel confident and have the ability to then move on from that. Okay. You talked about when you were little, like your anchor points. I saw the families, I watched, I asked questions. Now you're married and you have created a family. Share with us the intentionality, because I know from talking to you before that you are very intentional with everything that you do. So tell us how you cultivated just your home, your family, your relationships.
Yeah, I will say becoming a mother has also been very triggering for me. I want to call that out. And I
Huh.
anticipated that. So that's why I did the therapy that I did, because I remember sitting down. I actually didn't know if I wanted kids before we started trying. Like when I first met my husband, I told him I didn't want kids because of everything I went through. And it's crazy how the right relationship kind of helps you get over certain things or certain fears. And I don't want to make this like propaganda to go have kids. That's not what I'm saying. But like it made me do some soul searching on what am I scared of that I actually do want. So yeah, I remember having those talks with my husband, but I knew, the reason I didn't want to be a mom was didn't know what that relationship would look like. Like I would see people with their moms, but I never got to, like, they talk about unconditional love of a mom. I couldn't fathom that. Like I was like, what do you mean? Because everything always felt so transactional, like in my life. So I didn't want to be because the only sort of relationship I knew on that, I was like, well, I don't want that. Like if that's what motherhood is, I don't want that. But seeing how my husband is with his mom and all of that, and again, like going through all of that, and like even when I've had like my breakdowns and his mom showing up for me, it made me realize like, okay, no, I'm just scared of something that I actually do want. So when we decided to have kids, again, I went to therapy, but I anticipated that this would bring up some emotions for me. Like even I remember John and I putting together Mab's nursery, and I started crying because I was like, I know for a fact my parents didn't put together a room. Like I remember like designing his room and like just being so thoughtful of like, okay, I really want it to be like a cowboy themed, like kind of like the South, but my husband loves the beach. So like I'm gonna do like some beach stuff. Like I remember just like thinking through every little detail. And I just know how much love went into that project. And I remember like my husband doing the trim and painting it and like all of that. And I'm sure a lot of people listen to this, like you put together a nursery and it's a very normal thing to do. But I couldn't imagine my parents ever doing anything together because they loved me. And that was like really, and like to some of that, you're kind of feel bad for yourself to some extent, but let's flip that. Like, how beautiful is it that despite you not having that, you now get to create that for someone and you didn't let it make you bitter? Like, I think that is like, that's strength on another level. So I would tell myself that as like the emotions would come up throughout my pregnancy on top of, the pregnancy hormones and all of that. Now that, he's here, I've realized I used to be someone that would allow a lot of people access to me. But once you become a parent, you don't as much. Like you just need a lot more alignment with like values and is this someone I want my kid around? Like I do think of that a lot more these days. I become a bit more aggressive with my time. And when I do things, even as small as washing my face at night, like, and I don't feel like it, I think, well, when Mav's in college, would I hope that he took the time to wash his face and like take care of himself before going to bed? And if the answer is yes, then Whitney, suck it up because you need to be an example. Like I know that's so small, but that's what I mean by like being so intentional because those are the small things that they see every single day. Is my mom taking care of herself? Okay. Like he sees that. He sees me driving him to bar class and he sits in the studio and I know he's like 9 months and kind of a potato, but those things like they compound over time. So I think about that, like throughout the relationships I have, the actions I do, like, are these the things I would want him to do for himself? Because now that I know a mom's love is truly unconditional and you truly want the best for your kids, a good mother, that I think through that filter in everything that I
Mm-hmm.
do.
What about your home? And I know in that episode, we go into your home a little bit more, but you talked about the nursery. That wasn't really something that you had access to other people's home and decorating, rearranging their space and things like that. How have you noticed this kind of showing up? Because this is also your business and you didn't necessarily have that foundation as a kid. So how has this kind of bubbled up in your actual physical home environment?
Yeah, I kind of recently changed my niche to I still do interior styling, but since we talk about in the next episode how I do like interior styling for people, but I also do content creation, I've kind of branched my niche to be interior styling and homemaking because it's exciting for me during this season. But at home, I find myself wanting to do a lot of like memory making things. Like I remember I told my husband, I was like, I'm making him a boo basket. And I'm doing it every season because I can. And I remember like seeing like parents do that for their kids like growing up. And I know like it's a financial privilege to be able to do so, but you can figure out ways to do that for your kid even without those sort of resources. But I find myself wanting to like invest in like heirloom pieces that I can like use year after year. Like I got him a monogram boo basket and I was like, okay, every year it has his name on it. I'm going to put a boo basket and he'll like go trick or treating with it. And like his first birthday is coming up. And I told John, I was like, we're going to a pottery class and we're making him a birthday cake plate that we're going to use every single year. And a lot of my content, and I say content, it's my home is my content, but it's starting to lean more towards like that homemaking, how to make home special, how to make memories special. Because like I said, I don't remember a ton of my childhood and I want him to look back and have these like magical moments that he wants to recreate for his kids because it's fun. Like being a parent, like I'm not, it's not always going to be fun, but like you get what you give. Okay. So like make it fun for you, make it fun for them. And that's like what I've been thinking about. Like, okay, boo baskets. I'm making him a birthday plate. I'm probably going to get him one of those birthday cake knives that I hope that he wants to use at his wedding one day. Like I'm thinking of the now and how am I planting seeds that when he becomes a father one day, hopefully, love to be a grandma, but like, if, or, with his future wife, like what are the traditions he's going to like want to have in his home in the future? And like, that really excites me.
Yeah, those are fun things. And I grew up, I would say, very poor. And I remember my mom, like, we would have like a picnic on the floor. So there's definitely things that I,
yes, there's definitely ways to do
there's
it.
so many things that she did that was kind of creating those memories in a way that we still did when we had, no money versus when she did have money. So
yeah, I'm like, and let's be real, kids don't care
no,
about the money. That's not what it's about. My point is just like finding those moments to try to make it magical for them. Like I literally got a little bud vase the other day and I was like, okay, I can't wait till he walks because we're going to go pick little wildflowers and put them in the bud vase. Like what are those little small things we can start doing that he can look back on and be like, oh my God, my mom and I used to have picnics on the floor and I love that so much.
Yeah.
Like that's more so what I mean.
Yeah, I love those memories. One of the things my kids sometimes they would have dinner in the bathtub, which sounds actually like super ridiculous, but they remember that because I'm like, well, this is messy.
I love that.
You're just gonna get in the bath right now, but they remember dinner in the bathtub. Like that was just a silly thing that was like, we're gonna do it. I was a single mom at the time, like. We're going to get a 2-for-1 here.
Yep, I love that.
But I love the idea of looking at the lens of making memories. That's a really just, even if it's, it might not even be in parenting, it could be, anything like that idea of what is the lens. And it sounds like you've used that a lot that you're looking through. The last thing I want to touch on, because it was a theme throughout everything that you said, and also kind of leads into the world that I guess it would be like an online that you've created, is your sense of community and how you have really, that is something beautiful that you've cultivated.
Yes. I mean, I like throughout my whole life, you mean, or online specifically?
Yeah. Well, like it was a theme. It sounds like that the community showed up for me. I created community, and it sounds like you have an energy, even just me reaching out to you. I was like, I can just tell that there is something just wonderful that drew me to you to be like, hey, in your inbox, like, will you come talk with me? Because I just think that people need to hear from you. And clearly people need to hear from you. So how have you kind of created that community in your small world, but then also broader into the kind of internet land?
Well, that mentor I talked about, the one that told me I need to go to therapy. I remember like growing up, I've always had the best of friends, and their parents were so lovely. Like I remember that my whole life, I was just really focused. I would see kids that I just felt like they came from like good homes and like they had their head on straight. And I was like, okay, like I want to like surround myself with people like that. And I carried that throughout my whole life. But I remember my mentor sat me down when I was working in Chicago because that's when I mean, I would say throughout your life, you're going to bump into people that don't like you. And I used to really struggle with that because I was such a community. I was like connecting people and, like just like all of us being friends. Like I've just always been that kind of person. And I remember this person did not like me at work and I was having such a hard time with it. And she sat down and she was like, "Hey, Whitney, like you're very magnetic. And just like you're going to have people that are really attracted to you, that means just as strongly as people are attracted to you, you're going to repel people as well." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." Like, as like, me being the engineering major, I was like, "Yeah, duh." Like, that makes sense. And that was like a quick, again, it sounds silly because I was like 23, 24 getting told this, which is like 6 years ago. Like, I was like, "Oh, yeah. Why didn't I ever think of it like that?" And that allowed me to just kind of step into, I'm going to attract the right people by being authentically myself and sharing and, being a bit unapologetic about that. And if they don't like it, that's okay. They'll find other people that are for them and that's fine. And I've just kind of adapted that, once like when I heard that. And I would say that's like when I started stepping into like really being myself. It allowed me to attract so many more friendships that are truly aligned with like who I am and like also kind of where I'm going as well. So I did that, while building my community once I moved to Wisconsin, and I met a lot of the people on the internet because I didn't know anyone here. So I'd be vulnerable online about, I don't really have any friends. Like I would admit it. Like I moved to Wisconsin and I don't really know anyone locally. And that's how I met people, is by being vulnerable. Because when you share the icky stuff that feels icky, I promise you there's other people that relate to it, which is why I wanted to get, when you were like, "Will you be open to it?" I was like, yeah, because I know when I've heard stories like this, it makes you feel seen and inspires you to like get off your butt and like do something about it. But I would share stuff like that. And it allowed me to create my community online as well, because I started being really vulnerable about I can't be like best friends with everyone. You only have so much time, but it allowed me to create that community because I took a real interest in getting to know what they were going through. And like, I DM them, I know their kids' names, like stuff like that. Even though my account has grown, I'm still very proud that I still feel very close to my audience.
Yeah, that's a really neat thing. Are you an extrovert?
No.
Oh, how do you? Because I remember when you said this, you mentioned this before, and I thought, gosh, I wish I could do that. It
I'm not.
takes a lot.
I would say I'm very much an introvert. I just hate I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert because I'm not someone that can like go into a room and have a bunch of small talk. Like I like you said, depth. Like that's how me and my husband met. It was like I don't like small talk. Like I like the deep stuff, or like let's talk controversies. Like bring the facts.
Yes.
Like that's like I'm one of those people. So I would rather be in a room of really small people having really really deep and vulnerable conversations and be like around like a ton of people like talking about like, I don't know, smaller things. But I will say I'm one of those people, like this past month and a half, I told you I had a visitor like every weekend. Yeah. And like this last weekend, I was like, I don't want to do anything. Like I had my friends invite me to some like really cool stuff. And I was like, I can't, like, I love you. I literally just need to like recharge and like stare at a wall and like just be alone. I do love being alone, I will say, but I think there's beauty in community. So that's why I do what I do. And yeah, I would not say I'm an extrovert. I just think there's beauty in relationships. So that's why I seek them out.
You've done such a good job at creating community all throughout your life and your story. And then now within your home, and just, I really just want to highlight that by showing up and kind of, you said, speaking, like going on and saying, I need friends, because one, making friends as an adult is hard.
So hard.
It's so hard, especially when now you might notice when you're out with a young a young child, you kind of naturally, you meet people because you have, like the
Well,
little
and they're
gym
smiling at people and all of that.
Yes.
So like it invites conversation a lot more.
Yes. Yeah. And then when that kind of goes away, it's like the natural space to meet people. So showing up authentically who you are attracts the right people to you. And that's just such an important message.
I used to set goals that I was like, okay, Whitney, you need to like, until I found my people, because like not everyone's going to be your best friend. That's also something I had to like have a conversation with myself about, because when I lived in Louisiana, like my friend circle was my friend circle for like all that time. I didn't get out of Louisiana until I went to grad school. Like I like didn't have a passport till I got out of grad school. Like I wasn't like a world traveler, like, getting outside of my bubble a ton. But something I had to accept is like, you can have friends for different things. Like, and I really embraced that when I got to Wisconsin, when I was friend dating. I'd be like, okay, Whitney, you need to meet like 2 people this month. Like you need to get out and go talk to someone, and like 2 a month. Like I just set a goal until I found my people. And now I'd say my roster is quite long. I can't even keep them, and I love them all so dearly. And now I'm like, and I feel so bad when people reach out to me and I'm like, it's not you. I literally
friended too hard.
Takes up all my time. I friended too hard. I care about all of you, but like my kid takes up all my time. My kid and my business and my husband. Like it's just a lot. And that's it. Like friendships look different depending on the season that you're 100%. In. But yeah, that was also like an aha, like just, but as human, like we need connection, like introvert, extrovert, you need connection. So like find a way to get it.
Wonderful. Anything that maybe we missed or that you think is really important to share with the listeners today that you would like to share before we wrap up?
I think we covered.
You have lived 5 lives.
Anything else? Yeah, I mean, like, I was like, I have like more crazy stories, but like, I don't think we need to get into those. I think we're good.
Part 3, maybe sometime coming up.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Maybe part 3. Yeah. I'm like, we can dive into that one day.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Whitney, for sharing yourself and being vulnerable and sharing your community with people. And we'll have all the links of how people can get in contact with you in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Spirit of a Badass is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Alecia Jacobson. Music by Shane Ivers. We'll be back with another inspiring interview. Until then, keep your spirits high and your energy badass.